Hey guys, this is Kelly with That Hashtag Show, and today I'm reviewing Funimation's Soul Eater Not. And since I was a fan of the first series, I'm reviewing it in souls. That's right, I will be giving my review, and depending on if I liked it or not, I might be gobbling up some of those souls. Stay tuned. Quick background, if you are not familiar with the Soul Eater series, this show takes place at Death Weapon Meister Academy, also known as DWMA, where humans can be born with the power to turn into a weapon, and the warriors who wield those weapons, known as Meisters. Sugame finds out one day that she's a weapon and goes to the school to figure out how to control these powers. She befriends two girls who are Meisters, and there's kind of a friendship triangle about who's going to be her ultimate Meister. Now, this show follows the Not class, which are the students who train to control their powers, instead of the Eat class, which is what you might be familiar with if you've seen Soul Eater, who are those who train to become warriors. This show is about these friends trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into this DWMA Academy and their encounters in the world. So let's talk about story. Now, I'm a fan of the first Soul Eater series. Loved it. And this one showed a lot of promise at first, and I enjoyed watching each episode. But then over time, I was a little confused about where the plot was going. And they had a pretty kick-ass villain that I was actually interested in, a witch named Shala, that they brought in. It took them like half the series to bring her in, and then they didn't bring her in until the end. I wanted to know more about her, and they didn't show me that. And I was a little disappointed. It's only a 12-episode series, which isn't very long, and I felt like they could have done a lot more with it. There was tons of filler episodes, and there was a lot of unsurprising themes of, you know, friendship and love triangles, and the ending was a little bit predictable. I wish that they had focused more on a storyline, and honestly, I don't even think they had a plan for the plot. It kind of all seemed rushed at the end, and I didn't think that was very necessary. So for that, I'm taking off one whole soul. Actually, I'm chopping down on one whole soul. So let's move on to characters. One thing I really liked was the consistency of the characters between the series. If you are a fan of the characters in the original Soul Eater series, then you are probably going to be a fan of the characters in Soul Eater Not. Now, as I mentioned before, it revolves around the three best friends, the main best friends. Sugame is the main character, and I didn't really care for her much. She kind of has that generic little cutesy attitude that she was cute, but she didn't really add much to the story, and I didn't care for her. Now, Mei was her other best friend who really, I think the whole reason she was in there was just because she was busty. That was her contribution to the show. She was funny and she had a little humor to it, but once again, she was just a cute character. Now, my favorite character was Anya. She was the other best friend, and right off the bat in episode 1, you can see how confident and brave and badass she is. She is not afraid to take on a challenge, and she's not afraid to be the voice of reason. She was my favorite character. And as I mentioned before, I was also interested in the villain, Shala, the witch, but they didn't show me much of her. I wanted to see more, and they didn't give it to me. Now, I think that she has ties to the villain in the first series, but I don't really know. I was confused because they didn't give me the information that I wanted. Also, one problem that I had with the characters in the series is that they didn't have any memorable characters of their own. You do see a lot of the original characters make appearances in this show, but they were kind of the best characters of the show. This series itself had no memorable takeaway characters of its own, and for that I'm taking off half a soul. Gobbled up, guys. Alright, so let's talk about the animation of the series. This one differs a lot from the first Soul Eater series. You don't get that cartoony expression that you're used to seeing on the characters. No frustration marks or little sweat drops down the side or enlarged heads when they're angry and yelling at someone. None of that. This one is more of a realistic style, or as realistic you can get in an anime series. It is a cute style though. And for the action, I thought it was smooth, everything looked great, but there wasn't enough action scenes. I wanted more. I wanted to see more movement with the weapons and everything, and they didn't give me that. And for that, and as well as not having the original funky Soul Eater style that I wanted to see, I'm taking off half a soul. Chomp. So before I jump in on my thoughts about the series overall, let me give you a quick tidbit on the manga. The creator had started the original Soul Eater series because he wanted to create a unique take where you don't have to go into backstory or flashbacks in order to develop the character or the plot. So he wanted everything to develop in real time. And since after pitting Soul Eater and he wanted to develop the Death City story, he decided to create Soul Eater Not and still be able to develop it in real time without having to do flashbacks. Thought that was pretty interesting. Now moving on to my overall thoughts. This show, you don't need to be familiar with the Soul Eater series to understand this one. You guys can go ahead and watch it. And if you like cutesy animes, I think this one's right up your alley. Now, if you are a hardcore Soul Eater fan and you are looking for the same things that you loved about that show in this one, you're not gonna find it. This show does vary quite a bit from the first Soul Eater series, so you might be a little disappointed, but hey, I say still give it a shot. Alright guys, here is my final verdict for Funimation's Soul Eater Not. I give this series 3 souls. I thought that had such promise in the beginning, and I enjoyed watching the episodes, but I felt like the plot kind of fell through and the characters needed a bit more work. I love the original Soul Eater series, but this one just didn't match up to that one. Thank you so much for watching my review. This is Kelly with that #show. And before I forget, the winner for my One Punch Man review giveaway is at KMNC_. That's right, you won. Congrats. You are getting the Attack on Titan Book 1. Message us. We need to contact you so we know where to send it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe for all things trending and geek pop culture.